There we go. Okay. So, anyways, I've got Blizzard fleece in front of me. Wow. And the first thing I want to talk about is how to lay your fabric out for virtually any project that we do. It's all designed that when it comes off the bolt, it has the correct side out. And I don't care about that because when we sew, that's all going to be where I mark everything is going to be inside the seam. The other thing is there's absolutely no reason to fuss with your fleece when you lay it out because you're just going to turn it over and face it anyways. So I make my hats like this, just exactly how it rolls off the bolt. So it rolls off the bolt with the correct side out. Fleece has two sides. It has a correct side and it has a back side. So it's hard to see, but the easiest way to look at it and figure it out is to look at the edge, give it a pull, and it will always curl to the bad side. And my friend Sonia taught me this trick, which has helped me along a lot when you're making hats and making sure you're on the right side. So to make a scarf, okay, we're going to be using the entire width of the fleece. I did that specifically so fleece or scarves have no waist except for this edge, which is called the selvage. And this is the part of it that was used by the manufacturer to stretch material. We don't want any of this in it. So I personally always work with it on the left. You can work with it on the right, but when you're doing things, you want to make sure when you're cutting that your seam is always in, or your fold is always in the right place. So I've got a big template here. It's 9 by 30 because most fleece goes up to about 60 inches. So we're just going to simply make sure that our fleece is folded correctly. We're going to take a pen and we're going to draw a line. Now, when they cut this at Joann's, it's very likely they're not going to give you a very good edge. So what I do, if I know it's going to be for scarves or something, I make them cut a clean edge so that when I want to make 4 scarves, I have 4 actual clean edges. So the bottom is good, so we're simply going to draw across this, and that's it. That's your whole pattern for making a scarf. So I'm about to use my handy dandy cutters. For those of you who don't know what they are, these are electric scissors. These will absolutely change your world. These are called Hawk Force. They no longer have this same cutter by the same name. I don't know what the new name is, but this is a basic cutter. Excuse me. It goes through 2 to 4 layers of fleece like butter. I use it every single day, and you'll see why. So I'm going to go ahead and cut that line. Now, since it is a straight line, I like to stand up. So we're just going to go down here. That's it. My scarf is cut out. So now I want to get rid of the selvage. So I usually don't worry too much about being perfectly square on this. There are some dots along the side. That's part of the selvage you can follow. Come on, you. Don't curl up on me. Got cut for some reason. The good thing I have my scissors out. I think this blade needs to be sharpened. I know I look a little chaotic right now. Apologize for that. All right, so my scarf is now ready for sewing. All right. Now, because I already have my fleece out, I'm going to lay out my gaiter next. So we're going to do everything, each step for each item as we go along. So now we pull out our gaiter pattern. And as you can see, I just made a pattern out of a flat rate box from the post office. I think this is 13 by 23. It's on the pattern. You can see it there. So let me pull my, don't do that. Just don't do that. All right, so we're going to pull this fleece forward, lay it down. Now, this is very important when you're cutting your gaiters. It's very important that you keep your edge of your pattern against the selvage. Why? because on this outside edge here where it's folded, I can actually cut another hat, or I can cut a hat. So we want to make sure we're along the selvage line, and we want to cut here. And it's really important when you are cutting along the selvage, you do not want that again as part of your gaiter. What I do? There it is. All right. So the bottom is already set. You're going to hear some yelling. My cat is trying to pull her water bowl across the room because she likes to drink it off the floor because she's just weird. All right. So we're going to cut out the gaiter. And right now, we're not cutting out a gaiter. We're cutting out 2 gaiters. Okay? So that's what I mean. You can't take this, turn it any other way on the fleece because this has to go with the stretch. And the stretch always goes from selvage to selvage. So no matter what you make that has to stretch, it has to go on the correct way. Same thing with hats. Hats must line up along the selvage because we're going to get our stretch this way. So I'm going to cut this out real quick. Yeah, I definitely need to put a new blade on this. And there you go. 2 gaiters. Okay? So I've got the gaiter up in front of me. So everything, once again, when you're doing any sewing, you always want to have the wrong side out when you begin. So what I'm going to do real quick, folks, is I'm going to do a shift so that I can bring up my sewing machine and I'll walk you through it. Hang on 1 second. Ruth is here again to help me make this big switch. And here comes the machine. I love the chaos of changing in the middle of the webinar. Can you find my little nipper scissors? I guess I could use the giant ones. There we go. All right, so just let me load my sewing machine real quick, and we'll move forward. I did not just do that. I sure did. Having a moment here. There we go. All right. Thank you. I should have brought out my little fun table that I have for my sewing machine. I don't know if they make them for any other machines, but they're the coolest thing for making hats and stuff. Could you grab the little table? The sewing machine table? It's right over there. All right, so we're loaded up. Now I'm going to say this once again, ladies. Don't pin anything. Fleece really likes to grab a hold of itself. So I've never seen a need to pin anything. If you want to, you're welcome to, but to me, it's just a big time killer. So I prefer not to do it. Can you do me a favor and move those patterns off the table? Perfect, thank you. All right, let me set up my little feet here. Once again, coolest little table. I absolutely love this thing. All right. So what I love about it is when you are working on things, what is your problem today? There we go. When you're working on things, especially hats, this little space here, you're going to just lay the hat on here and just allow it to spin. It is such a nice thing to work with. All right, so we're going to grab a gaiter. Oh, nope, that's a fleece or the, geez, that's a scarf. All right, so we're going to make sure of which side is in and which side is out. So we're going to give this a pull. It's curling to my side. So we're going to go ahead and flip it over so that everything is working towards us. Now, I have it marked on there for an inch seam. If you do a 1/2 inch, if you do an 1 1/4, if you do 3/4 of an inch, it doesn't matter. Okay, this is not a precise pattern. It's really not. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to sew the bottom seam first, and it's always fun to get started. And Penny told me on the last call that it's too loud to hear me while I'm sewing, so I'll not talk while I sew. Hold the table. Hold the table. Killing me. One thing. All right, here we go. One more adjustment. Okay, so that's our first seam done. Now, we're going to match that seam on the other side. Now, the one thing that's really cool about making gaiters is this can also be a hat. So what you would do is when you're getting ready to sew your other seam, because they both match, we're just going to do the same thing on this side, you would sew a tie material. It could be paracord, it could be a ribbon, it could be almost anything, so that it's underneath the seam. Once it's done, you pull on that and you would make the top of a hat. So that's what I really like about gaiters, is they can be used in both ways. This can also be used as a mask. You pull it up over your face. It's the right size for that too. I am not going to make this into a hat, so I'm just going to do another seam. Right, all lined up. One last one. So that's your top and bottom seam. As you can see, that wasn't really that challenging. Even someone who sews as poorly as I do can do this, because literally, folks, I know how to go around the top of a hat, put a hem on it, or do this. Otherwise, don't put a pattern in front of me. I'd absolutely be lost. So the final thing we're going to do is we're going to fold it over. And as you can see, my seams are out. Okay, that's really important so that when we flip this inside out, you won't see any of the seams. So we're going to take this. We're now folded in half. Now this is a part where some of your sewing machines may get upset because we're going through 4 layers, but it's the reason I bought a heavy duty sewing machine, so I don't have that problem. And thread it. There we go. The one thing I would say when you're doing this is make sure that your opposite end is lined up as you're sewing. And that, my friends, is that. My gaiter is complete. It's literally that fast. So we turn it right side out. And this is what a completed gaiter looks like. It is literally just a simple tube. So when it goes on, it slides over the head, stops to be a mask if you want it to, or it simply stays down here to keep your neck warm if you've got another beanie. So they're incredibly warm. Hot flash. So there you go. That's how you make a gaiter. When you send it in, we would appreciate you folding it in half this way and then rolling it nice and tight and putting one rubber band around it. That's all you got to do. So what, I spent 5 minutes making this. I think the sewing time was an entire minute and a half. So once again, a really, really simple project for anyone to do. And again, these can be done by hand. You do not have to have a sewing machine to make one of these. They're just that simple. So we got a gaiter done. So now we're going to move on to a scarf. So when it comes off the bolt, it's the wrong side out. So the first thing I like to do is just drop it down, turn it around, so I know that I'm putting my seam on the correct side. Now to make one of these scarves, all you have to do, make sure you've got the bad side on the outside. And as you can see, both sides are curling to the outside. And we're just going to kind of line it up a little bit. Okay? Very challenging, I know. So the one key to success with this scarf is when you do your sewing, you start 3 inches from the top. Okay? And what I usually do is I'll put a mark so that both ends are exactly the same. That way, when you cut the fringe, both ends are the same. So I'm going to put a mark on the back of this right here. And then I'm going to go to the other end so that when I stop sewing, I have the same length. Okay, come on, you. Make sure I'm on the right side. I didn't twist it. I did. Oh, shame on me. Nope, wrong way again. Okay, so there we have the correct side out. So we're just going to lay this up here. We're going to add this one right next to it. And we're going to make a little mark so that both ends will have the same length of fringe. Okay, so now we can sew. We fold it in half. On this seam, I try to go about a 1/2 inch. If you want to go a little bit under, you're welcome to. If you want to go a little bit further, you're welcome to do that too. Either way works fine for me. So as you'll notice, I'm starting from that little line I made, which is here, about 3 inches from the end. Again, it doesn't have to be perfect. I didn't measure if you noticed. So I'm going to start on that mark, get under there. All right, and we just want to make sure, as you noticed, I did not pin anything, and I don't plan on pinning anything. All right. Make sure, because we don't pin, we just want to do a little adjustment. All right. Almost there. Oh, I wish this table wouldn't bounce so much. My sewing machine is walking away, so is my thread. Okay, I put the mark on the wrong side. Now I can't see where it is. So, and I need to remark this on this side. And of course, my pen doesn't want to write. There we go. All right, and the final part of the seam. I'm literally chasing my sewing machine. Good Lord. Let's try to do this. And that's it. That's all the sewing for a scarf. So I'm going to ask Ruthie to take this down. So we now have, take that with you, thank you. We now have a giant tube, all right? One seam, that's why I call it a one seam fleece. It's all I have is one seam. So now I'm gonna take this and we're gonna do the part that I hate the most, which is turning it out. So what I like to do is stick my hand inside and I just start feeding all of that into my hand. I know it looks weird, it's like, looks like it's being eaten, but it seems to work best doing it this way. And as you can see, it's feeding through really well. Turn that out. And then we beat on it a few times to get that edge or end to come down. And then we're just going to grab here until we get the rest of the scarf out. Almost. It's got about 1.5 feet to go. All right. Come on, you. Pop out of there. There we go. There's the end. Okay. So we've got our ends. We've got our tube. this is basically done except for one small step, and that is cutting the fringe. I like fringe on fleece scarves. I'm not sure why, but I just do. So we've got our end of seam here. So what we're going to do is across the other way, we're going to go ahead and cut along the fold until it gets to be about the same length. Okay. So now I'm going to turn it. Hopefully you can see this. And I am going to cut in rows to make the fringe. Your fringe can be a 1/4 inch wide. It can be a 1/2 inch wide. You could take the whole thing and cut it into 6, whatever floats your boat. I like to cut it in half to start with, and then I cut it into thirds. So basically it's 5 cuts. And yeah, I could probably use my little cutters, but this is pretty simple. Lay that down. And there you have your fringe. That is a finished end. So we're going to flip it around. We're going to do the same to the other side. So we're going to figure out where that seam ends. Once again, I'm going to just cut down the middle and cut it into thirds on each side. And the good thing is you don't have to cut the last one because it's already done. And there's no precision in this at all, folks. I am eyeballing everything. And there you go, a completed scarf. It's that fast. If you want to sew the seam on this, you're welcome to, instead of using a sewing machine. It's actually really, really simple. I always call it a whip stitch, which you just whip over the top all the way down. You could do a straight stitch, whatever you like to do when you're sewing. But that's the neat part about both of these, is you can easily do them by hand. To ship them to us, we're going to go ahead and we're going to fold this in half so that we have all of the fringe together on one end. And we're going to start from that fringed end. The reason is if the fringe is hanging out, it gets snagged on everything. So instead, we like you to fold it over, tuck all the fringe into the middle, and roll. Okay, and that's it, guys. Once again, we want you to roll these as tight as you possibly can. 2 reasons. It's going to absolutely let you fit more into your box. And when it arrives here, it'll fit in our little box that we use for checking the sizes of things. So once again, 1 rubber band. Please do not put multiple. Don't wind them in a bunch of different ways. 1 rubber band. Now, if you would like to include a note, and I highly encourage you to do this, what I usually do, I personally have business cards, but we want to use a piece of paper about the size of a business card. I take it to this right about here, and then I roll it inside. Please do not attach the notes to the scarf. Once they're rolled inside, they're rubber banded, they're never going to come loose. So please don't attach them. So that's it, folks. That's making a scarf and a gaiter. Now, for me personally, if I was going to make a bunch of gaiters or a bunch of scarves, I would, unrolling, I would cut however many on each part. So I do all my cutting, then I'm going to move over and do all my sewing. And that means that if I've got 10 of these, I'm going to sew 10 of them. I'm not going to do one and back and forth. I'm going to do everything in one big step. So I would cut all of these, then I would sew all of these, and then I trim all the thread on all of them. Same thing with the scarves. I'm going to cut as many as I need. I'm going to sew the seam on all of them. Then I'm going to turn them all inside out. Then I'm going to trim all the fringe. So I find that by doing all the steps that you need to do one at a time and not going back and forth, don't cut one out, then go to the sewing machine. Cut out 10, then sew 10. It's going to save you a tremendous amount of time. All right, ladies, that's it. That's sewing a scarf and a gaiter.
What about the colors? What about the colors of the scarves and the beautiful patterns you use? It doesn't say that in this So tell people
Right.
that.
I actually mentioned that at the beginning. You are welcome to have fun with your prints or with your solids. The only thing we ask, don't send neon orange, neon green, neon yellow. Okay, remember these are going to be worn by both men and women. So when you are checking your prints, keep that in mind. There's a lot of children's prints. You really don't want to use those. But I have used, I think, 130 different prints. And just if it struck my fancy, that's what I bought. I haven't bought any big flowery or paisley. But one warning, if you get anything that has stripes, good luck on lining it up. Fleece likes to walk underneath your sewing machine foot, and no matter how hard you try, they're not going to be perfect. So I gave up on it, and I avoid buying stripes or plaid or anything along those lines because it's just a nightmare to work with. So stick with patterns that you have fun with. I don't choose large patterns. I made the mistake of buying a print that has dogs. Now, unlike my little dog prints, the dog is about this tall. So to actually make this hat work, I would have to cut right along those. I would waste a ton of material. So I try and avoid those kinds. One thing, once we are done and we're going to do shipping, please make sure that you go onto our website. At the bottom of the page right now, you'll find the product donation form. We are relaunching our website. It should be up by mid-July, and you'll just need to find the shipping instructions at that point. Since I don't have it in front of me and it's not set, I can't tell you the link that you'll be needing in the future. Has anybody got any questions? Go ahead, Janet. You have to come off of mute.
That's what I realized. Do you press either your gaiters or your scarves when you're done to make the seam flat?
Nope.
Nope.
Nope. Honestly, if you can see this now, all of my seams are right here. It's all where it's supposed to be.
Okay.
Honestly, I don't think I would press fleece at all. I'd be really worried about it burning.
Yeah. You have to do it with Turkish towel. Yeah.
Yeah, it's 100% polyester, and I'd be very leery about pressing any of this. The other thing is, don't wash it. Okay, unless after it's done you are a smoker or you have animals and you've got cat hair everywhere, please don't wash anything you send to us. Most people are allergic to things like Tide, laundry detergent. So instead, send it as is. It's more than clean when it comes from Joann's or wherever you buy your fleece. If you do have to wash it, please use a hypoallergenic, non-fragrant laundry soap. The one thing we worry about is people washing these and using a bounce sheet or something like that. That heavy odor will absorb into everything else that's in our care package, especially food, and make it taste like bounce. So please don't wash them ahead of time. Any other questions?
Yes. How many fleece can you? How many scarves can you get from a yard?
You get 4. It's not an about, it's 4. I made cut these at 9 inches, these guys at 9 inches, so that you would get exactly 4 out of a yard. So you got 36 inches, you get 4 scarves. You get 4 gaiters, and you get 1 hat on the side. Now, the problem with gaiters is you're going to have a big amount of waste. So usually I go everything in even amounts so that when I have 2 yards in a row, I can use that waste from each yard.
Right.
So that to me is the most important thing. I don't want to waste anything. That's why I went ahead with this. I can't read that comment. Penny, what does that say?
She asked if the scarf seam is down the middle or on the side.
On the side. Where you fold it, if you look at how this is folded right now, the seam is right here. Okay. It's just the way they're sewn. The one thing I can say when you're sewing, you saw that I kind of stopped and did a little bit of adjustment. You're going to have to do that because even if you pin, all right, I'm going to say this again, fleece moves. Fleece does not like to stay properly under the foot of your sewing machine. And no matter how hard you try, it's going to buckle, it's going to bounce, it's going to go in every direction. Also remember, it's stretching. So don't pin. there really isn't a need for it, and chances are it's going to make your scarf even worse than what you would have had even if you didn't pin. So I just tell everyone, please don't pin anything. Anything else? Hang on 1 second, I gotta do something real quick. All right. So now I'm going to go and take this from speaker view to gallery view so I can see all of you. All right, ladies, again, that's everything that needs to be done. One of the big questions I always get asked, how many do we need? We need as many as you can make. We can never have enough hats, scarves, and gaiters. We want to make sure that they go out in every single deployed troop care package. Each year, that's anywhere from 50 to 75,000 care package individually named. So as many as you can make, we already have a home for it. So please, once you get started, for crying out loud, keep going. And the other thing is when you buy fleece, everybody sees these sales at Joann's. Okay, right now I think it's $3.99 a yard for solid blizzard. That's not the cheapest price. Okay, you probably won't see it until the fall, but they'll have it on sale. Again, it'll be on sale at $3.99, but then they're going to have a 20% off coupon. So then you're going to continue to lower your price. I never buy fleece unless it's $3 or less, because you're always going to find those sales. Unlike Janet, who buys the license because she makes them for Project Linus, those never go on sale. The rest of it does. $2.99 a yard is the best price I have found. If you do decide to want to make hats, you get 7.5 per yard, or if you use 2 yards, you can get 17 hats out of it. So in the long run, besides paracord bracelets, if you buy your fleece at $2.99 a yard, this is the least expensive project you can do except for letter writing. That's it. So I hope that you'll give it a try, whether you have a machine or not, and enjoy yourself. These are a ball to make. They really are. All right, ladies, unless there are any questions, I'm going to go ahead and end this webinar and say thank you for attending and have a happy and wonderful Memorial Day weekend. Remember why we're having this 4-day weekend, and that is to honor those that lost in service. So for those in my family that were lost serving in different wars, I do this entire weekend with gratitude and in their honor. So I hope that you as well will think about why we're getting this 3-day weekend, and thank a veteran when you get a chance. All right, ladies, have a great day, and we'll see you back on Facebook. Bye now.